Kiss me once and kiss me twice and kiss me once again. It's been a long time. Haven't felt like this, my dear, for since remember when. It's been a long time. You'll never know how many dreams I dream of you. Just how empty they all seem without you. Da 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 da, do 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 do. That's okay. Udah putar lagu ya kayak gitu. Just a little song. Let's just listen some Christmas song. Sudah faham.
That's life. That's what all the people say. You're riding high in April, shot down in May. But I know I'm gonna change that tune.
Kayaknya bakal lihat.
When I'm back on top, back
Tapi nggak
on
tahu
top
juga
of
ini
June.
gimana aturan Instagram. Kalau begini kalau bisa 1,1 kita asumsi dia 1,1 ya.
Some people get their kicks stomping on a dream.
Cek dulu
But I
dimatiin
don't
dia
let
punya.
it get me down.
Seharusnya sih untuk layarnya warnanya sudah
Cause this
pas
fine
gitu.
old world,
Dulu mungkin nanti akan
it
cek lagi
keeps
biar
spinning
handphone.
around. I've been a puppet, a pauper, a pirate, a poet, a pawn and a king. I've been up and down and over and out. And I know one thing. Each time I find myself flat on my
Gak ada
face,
juga dia punya.
I pick myself up and get
Kita
back
pintar sekali.
in the race. That's life.
That's life.
I tell you, I can't deny it. I thought of quitting, baby, but my heart just ain't gonna buy it. And if I didn't think it was worth one single try, I'd jump right on a big bird and then I'd fly. I've been a puppet, a pauper, a pirate, a poet, a pawn and a king. I've been up and down and over and out. And I know one thing. Each time I find myself laying flat on my face, I just pick myself up and get back in the race.
window capture juga untuk ketiga, tapi untuk yang
Many times I thought of cutting out, but my heart won't buy it. But if there's nothing shaking come this here July, I'm gonna roll myself up in a big
window capture
ball
2 untuk ketiga.
and
There is no transition duplicate. Nah, kita coba ambil inspirasi dari situ aja lah ya. Should be fine? Question mark? Oh, wait. Kita kembali. Tapi dari sini, dan over here, kinda. It should be fine. Jadi kalian bisa lihat juga seberapa bukan gampang juga sih, maksudnya kalau untuk edit itu nggak susah itu. Except for all the cables around the God for second place. Oh shit. Gue juga cari inspirasi lah. Buat yang warnanya kayak gini. Sekali stop sedikit mungkin. Jadi untuk sebenarnya nggak susah banget. Susah ya sih, nggak susah sih sebenarnya ya. Coba pikir dulu. Untuk kelas itu kan seperti kita tahu black, shadow, mid-tone, terus highlight sama white. Tinggi juga gak bagus karena nanti ya apa namanya ya di sini warnanya agak sedikit kinda kita coba main di sini aja kita lebih vibrant, terus satu ratio nya diturunin mungkin. be fine? Question mark? Aku nggak begitu tahu bahwa soal retouch on the face. Dun-dun-dun. A little bit of red. Jesus Christ. I don't understand how to give the let's just add another bit of gray. This is very good. Kind of. Try making the highlight dia tuh terang banget. Dari mencapai mata coy belum gelap lagi. Salah.
Do you have to
dudes are really ugly. God damn. I can't help but feel bad for the models. In all honesty, she's very, very pretty in one sense. Because I'm not, my experiences are enough, so it felt like I can capture her whole beauty kind of thing. Oh, and yeah, it's kind of make me a little bit mad. Maybe I'm too perfectionist or something, but sometimes it do felt that way. This just felt like not shame, but it's not enough. It's just not enough. Well, too bad, is it? Just because of some meh inability. Keep it not pink, but Yellowstone. The makeup is really good. Oh, this one. Ooh. It feels L. What the fuck? Oh yeah.
About things we've gone through, though it's hurting me. Now it's history. I played all my cards, and that's what you've done too. Nothing more to say, no more race to play. The winner takes the loser standing small beside the victory. That's her destiny. I was in your arms,
เป็นคนแปลก
thinking I belonged there. I figured it made sense, building me a fence, building me a home, thinking I'd be strong there. But I was a fool, laying by the rules. The gods make wrong with ice, their minds as cold as ice. And someone way down here loses someone dear. The winner takes it all, the loser has to fall. It's simple and it's plain. Why should I complain? But tell me, does she kiss like I used to kiss you? Does it feel the same when she calls your name? Somewhere deep inside, you must know I miss you. But what can I say? Rules must be obeyed. The judges will decide.
เป็นชีวิต
The likes of me abide. Spectators on the show always stay alone. The game is on again. A lover or a friend, a big thing or a small, the winner takes it all. I don't wanna talk if it makes you feel sad, and I understand. You've come to shake my hand. I apologize if it makes you feel bad, seeing me so tense, no self-confidence. But you see, the winner takes it all. The winner takes it all.
อืมโอ้
Gotta think
don't want to see me, 'cause I don't think that they'd understand. When everything's meant to be broken, I just want you to know who I am. And you can't fight the tears that are coming, or the moment the truth realizes. When everything feels like the movies, yeah, you bleed just to know you're alive. And I don't want the world to see me, 'cause I don't think they'd understand. When everything's made to be broken, I just want you to know who I am. And I give up forever to pursue. Everything else will be broken. And I don't want the world to see me, 'cause I don't think they'd understand. When everything's made to be broken, I just want you to know who I am. And I don't want the world to see me, 'cause I don't think that they'd understand. When everything's made to be broken, I just want you to know who I am. I just want you to know who I am. I just want you to know who I am. I just want you to know who I am. I just woke up from a dream where you and I had to say goodbye. And I don't know what it all means, but since I survived, I realized wherever you go, that's where I'll follow. Nobody's promised tomorrow, so I'ma love you every night like it's the last night, like it's the last night. If the world was ending, I
Filho de uma bola, Luigi, uma What kind of game? Interesting.
Lost in the words that we speak. I don't even wanna do this anymore. 'Cause you already know what you mean to me. And all of the only war worth fighting for. Wherever you go, that's where I'll follow. Nobody's promised tomorrow. So I'ma love you every night like it's the last night. Like it's the last night. If the world was ending, I wanna be next to you. If the party was over and our time on earth was through, I wanna hold you just for a while.
And die with a smile. If the world was ending,
I wanna be next to you. Right next to you. Next to you. Right next to you. If the world was ending, I'd wanna be next to you. If the party was over and our time on earth was through, I wanna hold you just for a while and die with a smile. If the world was ending, I wanna be next to you. If the world was ending, I wanna be next to you. I wanna be next to you.
and my back is pretty tired.
I am not the only traveler who has not repaid his debt. I've been searching for a trail to follow again. Take me back to the night we met. And then I can't tell myself what the hell I'm supposed to do. And then I can't tell myself not to ride along with you. I had all of them, most of you, some and now none of you. Take me back to the night we met.
now naive. Take me back to the night we met. I don't know what I'm supposed to do, haunted by the ghost of you. Take me back to the night we met. It's been long.
I still remember the look on your face, lit through the darkness at 1:58. The words that you whispered for just us to know. You told me you loved me, so why did you go? Away. I do recall now the smell of the rain, fresh on the pavement. I ran off the plane. That July 9th, the beat of your heart, it jumps through your shirt. I can still feel your arms, but now I'll go sit on the floor wearing your clothes. All that I know is I don't know how to be something you miss. I never thought we'd ever last kiss. I never imagined we'd end like this. Your name, forever the name on my lips. I do remember the swing of your step, the life of the party. You're showing off again, and I'd roll my eyes, and then you pull me in. I'm not much for dancing, but for you I did, because I love your handshake. Meeting my father, I love how you walk with your hands in your pockets, how you kissed me when I was in the middle of saying something that's not. Hey, this is a story I hate, and telling it might make me break, but I'll tell it anyway. This chapter's about how you said there was nobody else. Then you got up and went to her house. You guys always left me out. I still have the letter you wrote when you told me that I was the only girl you'd ever want in your life. I guess my friends were right. Each day goes by and each night I cry. Somebody saw you with her last night. You gave me your word, don't worry about her. You might She must be perfect, oh well. I hope you both go to hell. I still have the letter you wrote when you told me that I was the only girl you'd ever want in your life. I guess my friends were right. Each day goes by and each night I cry. Somebody saw you with her last night. You gave me your word, don't worry about her. You might love her now, but you loved me first. Said you'd never hurt me, but here we are. Oh, you swore I'll never start. How could you be so reckless with my heart? How could you be so reckless? How could you be so reckless? How could you be so reckless with someone's heart? Hey, this is a story I hate, but I told it to cope with the pain. I'm so sorry if you can relate.
I could imagine you breaking my heart. Those things can happen whenever you hold on too hard. I'm not a pessimist, I'm just a mess in the dark. Tend to get anxious when something begins, 'cause I know the chances of staying together are slim. The odds are against us, but I'll make the best of whatever this is. Oh, tired of writing in pencil, I'm inking you in. Oh, living like I'm not afraid of the end, afraid of the end, afraid of the end. If and when, can we just pretend we're not afraid of the end? What if you met someone else at your work? Someone more stable and better at putting you first. You could lose patience while I'm on the other side of the earth. Oh, I'm tired of writing in pencil, I'm inking you in. Oh, living like I'm not afraid of the end, afraid of the end, afraid of the end. If and when, can we just pretend we're not afraid of the end? Oh, if and when, can we just pretend we're not afraid of the end? I could imagine you breaking my heart. I could imagine you breaking my heart. It might not happen, but there's still a chance. I can't imagine, I can't imagine. What day is it? And in what month? This clock never seems so alive. I can't keep up, and I can't back down. I've been losing so much time. 'Cause it's you and me, and all other people to do, nothing to lose, and it's you and me and all other people, and I don't know why I can't keep my eyes off of you. One of the things that I wanna say just aren't coming out right. I'm tripping on words, you got my head spinning, I don't know where to go from here. 'Cause it's you and me and all other people, nothing to do, nothing to prove, and that's you and me and all other people, and I don't know why I can't keep my eyes off of you. There's something about you now I can't quite figure out. Everything she does is beautiful. Everything she does is right. 'Cause there's you and me and all other people, nothing to do, nothing to lose, and there's you and me and all other people, and I don't know why I can't keep my eyes off of you and me and all other people, nothing to do, nothing to prove, and it's you and me and all other people, and I don't know why I can't keep my eyes off of you. What day is it? And in what month? This clock never seems so alive. Outlines of new eyes and visions of you. Girl, I think I need a minute to figure out what is what isn't. These choices and voices, they're all in my head. Sometimes you make me feel crazy. Sometimes I swear I think you hate me like that. I need a walk, I need a walk, I need to get out of here. 'Cause I need to know who are you? 'Cause you're not the girl I fell in love with, baby. Who are you? 'Cause something has changed. You're not the same. I hate it. I'm sick of waiting for love. Love. I know that you're not the one. Feeling hypnotized by the words that you said. Don't lie to me, it just got in my head. When the morning comes, you're still in my bed. It's so, so cold. Who are you? 'Cause you're not the girl I fell in love with. Who are you? 'Cause you're not the girl I fell in love with, baby. Who are you? 'Cause
curse at the wind. Broke his own heart, and I watched as he tried to reassemble it. And my mama swore that she would never let herself forget. And that was the day that I promised I'd never sing of love if it does not exist. But darling, you are the only exception. 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 Maybe I know somewhere deep in my soul that love never lasts, and we've got to find other ways to make it alone, or keep a straight face. And I've always lived like this, keeping a comfortable distance. And up until now I had sworn to myself that I'm content with loneliness, because none of it was ever worth the risk. Well, you are the only exception. You are the only exception. You are the only exception. You are the only exception.
Dan itu saja.
Sometimes I come across a movie that I know is special. Even after days, weeks, or months, it keeps coming back to me. I think about it, I feel like I need to explore it more, so I watch it again and rewatch it, take notes and find small details and symbols and motifs I missed the last time. So here we are. I watched the film like that, and I want you to listen to this. This is the sound of little hammers pounding the feet of the mistress who won tonight's competition. It's a privilege only one can receive in an endless battle between four women. It's a fierce and oppressive way of living, and there's no way out of it. This is Zhang Yimou's 1991 film Raise the Red Lantern. The film, which was banned in China for some time after its release for its symbolic critique of the government. It's arguably the director's magnum opus, which is impressive considering his body of work includes classics like the Academy Award-nominated Judo, international wuxia hits like Hero or House of the Flying Daggers, and he's also responsible for the wonderfully choreographed 2008 Beijing Olympics opening ceremony. Raise the Red Lantern is one of the most beautifully shot films I've ever seen, with its static, symmetrical compositions, distancing long shots and elevated shots, which all serve the purpose of creating the oppressive beast the estate represents. The walls of this prison loom over the characters, the lost souls who serve the master of the family and all that came before him. But behind every intricately staged scene and every symbol, there's something special, an unseen player in this infinite yet futile game of intrigue and deceit, the sound of the film. The hidden character that works outside the constraints of the frame and sometimes even commands the camera for attention. In the very first scene we see the protagonist, Song Liang, played by the brilliant Gong Li, whose father just died, so she's forced to give up her studies and become the wife of a wealthy man. The audio-visual language of the film is established right at this point. A symmetrical close-up of the main character who spreads between the geometric shapes of the background like a bird locked in a cage, while we hear the sound of her stepmother outside the frame who forces her to marry someone.
嫁有钱人可是当小老婆，
we never get to see the mother. The shot is held for the whole duration of the scene, and like the frame, the character is also rigid and motionless
当小老婆
as she accepts her fate.
就当小老婆，
The fate of a woman in the feudal
女人不就这么回事？
and patriarchal society of 1920s China. In the film, there are 3 other mistresses already married to the master of the Chen family. Every night, the master chooses one of them to sleep with. The decision is announced with the raising of the red lanterns in the living quarters of the selected mistress. It also gives them privileges, such as a foot massage and the chance to choose the next day's meal. This is what results in a competition between the mistresses who all want the attention of the family patriarch. Arriving at the estate, she is still wearing her white school uniform as she walks around in the desaturated, empty corridors of her new home. And again, without seeing the speaker, we hear the voice of a man. As Songlian searches for the source, there's a cut where we see the servant observing from above, like a prison guard. This is one of the examples in the movie where the sound directs the camera and motivates the cut. We can also see another characteristic that stays throughout the film. The high walls and roofs fill up most of the frames. Even when the characters walk around the rooftops, the sky only shows on the very top of the compositions. The estate even keeps viewers within its walls. Its architecture reflects the strict rules and traditional values of the Chen family. As the scene continues, we see these wide shots. The characters walk into the frame each time. It's disorienting. The audience doesn't have any inclination of the layout of the estate. Just like us, the deeper we go into this labyrinth, Songlian also loses her control. Her senses dull, and she needs to accept the empty life of a mistress, where she has no individuality and no freedom. Jacqueline Loeb writes this in her thesis about this scene. As Songlian and the servant propel themselves urgently through successive enclosures, we never get the sense that the camera is moving with them. Rather, the montage is reminiscent of that affected by an impassive security system, switching from one channel of surveillance to the next. So far we only heard 2 sounds as they walked, the birds and their echoing steps. But as soon as they arrive at her living quarters, there's a new sound in the background. Water. We don't know where it's coming from, and similarly to the servant's arrival earlier, the audio track dictates the cut. We get introduced to a new character, the servant Yaner. Her introduction paints a good picture of her personality. Unseen, observant, sneaky and jealous. She's the ear that is always listening, hiding behind the walls of the estate to get information about Songlian that might hurt her. The film utilizes silence frequently and effectively, so when there are sounds or music, it's usually for a good reason. For example, whenever the lanterns are raised, the seasons change, or the chosen mistress is announced, we hear the same soundtrack. This segment is used in Peking operas for scenes of struggle and war. The intensity reflects the battle between the mistresses. It's used sparingly and only briefly, but it's one of the rare occasions when the film uses non-diegetic music. The first time this happens and the song stops, we see a hypnotizing montage of the lanterns being raised by the servants. With echoing clicking and bashing sounds, the shots are getting shorter and shorter, until the female servants arrive to give the foot massage that's privileged to the newest mistress. All the sounds are amplified, and with barely any ambience of music, they are much more impactful. Everything is perfectly choreographed. These traditions and customs have been in place for centuries in this family. Songlian is just another piece of this never-ending play. New sounds are added on top of the lanterns. The privilege of the foot massage is represented by the bowl of water and the hammers mentioned earlier. From this point onward, the audience remembers these, and whenever Zhang uses them, we know what's happening, even if it's not visible to us. This is a brilliant way for the director to tell the story and elicit emotions with a very simple filmmaking tool, a single sound effect. It comes back multiple times in the film. The first time Songlian misses out on the red lanterns, we can see her rubbing her feet together in frustration, while the massage is going on in the quarter of another mistress. Another time she is invited to play mahjong, so the master can't find her, and when the hammers start in the background, the audience and Songlian feels the same gut-wrenching sense of anguish, because it dawns on us the invitation was a ploy to make her miss out on the selection. The foot pounding was not only on the feet, but also on the hearts of other wives who were not favored. All this also establishes another thing, the unseen. I already showed how characters appear with only their sound outside the frame, but there's a very important character we never get a good look at, the Master. When the Master arrives, we don't see his face. In fact, throughout the whole film, we never see a close-up of the head of the estate. However significant his role is here, he is obscured in shadows, a faceless man, the symbol of oppression and patriarchy. Despite him being the sole purpose these women are here and treated as objects, he stays passive for most parts of the movie. He decides who gets the Red Lantern for the night, but his decision is always swayed by a mistress or another circumstance. He's a ghost of all the men who came before him in this family, born into tradition.
你真的不灵啊！有人可早就盼着吹角了。
But it's not just people who represent the unseen. In a conniving game like this, information and what happens in secret is also crucial. If you look at the mahjong scene again, this is the point where Song Lian finds out about the affair between the third mistress and the young doctor. She's not supposed to look below the table, but she does. Her character is constantly challenging the customs of the household, and in this estate, wherever you look, you find secrets and lies you are not supposed to. The kitchen staff gossiping,
反正呀，哪院点灯，哪院点菜，伺候就是了。
the mistresses talking behind each other's back in closed rooms,
朱云这个人呢，是菩萨脸皮子细。
the forbidden death house on the rooftop, and Yanner's hidden red lanterns and cursed doll in her room. These lie beyond the surface of the perfect symmetries and strict rules of the estate. A world where the facade is no longer intact, where the corruption of the human spirit is laid bare. Sound is a good tool for foreshadowing as well. If we continue the first night's events, we hear an otherworldly, non-diegetic opera singing. Without the viewer's knowledge, this small musical theme refers to the third mistress, the opera singer we get introduced to in the next few scenes, and it foreshadows multiple events. One is the scene where she starts singing early in the morning to wake up Song Lian,
谁在唱？13姐吧。
and the other is at the end of the film, where the singing of the third mistress is mistaken for a ghost. Later on we get another foreshadowing, when Song Lian listens to the third mistress and the master from above her quarters, looking at them jealously, and straight after this she finds the death house on the rooftops. The connection between death, being a ghost, and the third mistress is signaled throughout the film. Just as the singing fades, we get the word from the servants of the third mistress that she wants to see the master.
这条门，我已经睡下了。
Again, only a voice from outside the room. The master leaves and Song Lian looks in the mirror, a red lantern in her hand, with tears rolling down her face. She entered the prison of the Chan estate, she consummated the marriage, and now she's part of the dark and twisted game the mistresses play. She wipes the tears away and looks determined to participate. The next morning we even see her wearing a cheongsam, a modern dress developed in the 1920s and mainly worn by high-class women. She gives up her individuality and status as an educated girl. Song Lian no more, she becomes the fourth mistress. The exposition is over. It's important to examine the symbol of the red lantern. In Chinese culture, red lanterns symbolize family reunion, happiness and prosperity, which are associated with joy and good fortune. However, in Raise the Red Lantern, they are the symbol of power and desire. The desire fire is lit in the red lanterns.
把灯举高点儿。
While I agree with this examination, in the film I argue the symbol constantly changes its meaning.
脸抬起来。
At the beginning of the film, it's a symbol of desire, oppression and control. But after Song Lian decides to play the dirty game, it becomes a symbol of power for the women. An award of sorts. The mistresses line up each day and the servants publicly announce who gets the red lanterns. It's embarrassing, and it makes the mistresses want to win that much more. The fake smiles of congratulations, the visible frustrations of the defeated, the scornful grins of haughtiness, everything is showcased on these occasions. Here they strive to get the red lantern. In this existence, the reward is the attention of the patriarch, and the ultimate goal is to bear a child, more accurately, a male successor. But then, towards the end of the film, the lantern changes its meaning again. But a bit more on that later. We talked a bit about the songs of the opera singer, but we need to look at other instruments too, the flute in particular. Songlian brings her father's flute with her, which is an instrument men used in China at the time. This item represents her family, her creativity, and her free spirit. So when the master takes it away and destroys it, we get another part of her personality stripped away from her.
好了好了，不就是这第一次？
Also importantly, Fei Pu, the master's son, is shown playing the flute. Songlian connects to him through this sound, representing her desire for a better life, a free life.
你是宋濂吧？
The non-diegetic flute comes in as their souls connect, but while the audio tells us it's an intimate and emotional moment between the two, we see them in separate frames, confined between the door frames of the estate, cut off from each other on two sides of the building. Before discussing the ending in detail, let's take a look at two crucial scenes where sound was used very creatively. Lowe points out that these scenes disrupt the expected cooperation between the sound and the camera. The first one happens at the beginning of the film's second half. Songlian learns that the second mistress who was friendly with her was scheming in the background all along. She offers the second mistress to do her haircut. The tension comes from two things. One, the viewer knows that Songlian has the information about the true intentions of the second mistress. And two, we see a two-shot of the characters both facing the camera, but Songlian is standing behind her, so we see her reactions and sense that she might hurt her rival. Songlian even says she has never done this, so the second might get hurt. There's a close-up of the scissors, where we hear the sound effect of a cutting, but immediately after we get a close-up of Songlian's face, emotionless, contemplating if she should do it. The sound of the scissors continue as we get a wholly different perspective, a shot of what's in front of them, the entrance to the living quarter. Then silence, and a scream. The second scene is the tragic end of the third mistress. After Songlian accidentally tells the second mistress about the affair between the third and Dr. Gao, she's carried to the death house. The scene starts with Songlian sitting in her room, hearing muffled sounds from the rooftop. She follows the servants carrying the third mistress and watches from a distance as they bring her to the death house. There is no accompanying music, only the reverberating footsteps on snow and the sighs of the third mistress. Then Songlian kneels down at a vantage point and we only hear the wind and her breathing. The servants are far away in the distance now, their sounds disappear. We only hear the sharp crackling of the lock and the loud hits on the door from a servant who opens the death house. This take is more than a minute long. The servants disappear inside for some time, then the doors are locked once more and they leave the roof. Now the camera goes back to Songlian, who walks up to the death house. The shots are similar to her first time here, but now we get to see a point of view shot as she is approaching. After minutes of silence, an intensifying opera part starts playing with percussions and the chorus. The ominous and chaotic singing of dozens of women, the lost souls of the past that all ended up in the house of the dead. As Songlian's terror is at its peak and she gets to the forbidden structure, the camera and music cuts. We are once again disconnected from the action, and with an extreme wide shot, Songlian and the building are only a small part of the frame, surrounded by the geometrical lines of the estate rooftop in silence. The low humming of the wind is only broken by the echoing sound of the locks and the haunting screams of Songlian. Songlian's war with the other mistresses and the fatal mistakes she made lead her to realize that ultimately the Red Lantern serves no purpose. It's meaningless. There's no joy in receiving the temporary favors of the monstrous estate. Every resistance, every change in the customs she makes is futile. There's no salvation and there's no escape. How do you escape a prison that has ownership of you as a person, your body and mind? Where you are seen every minute of every day, where you're ordered to take part in the routines of the family tradition, and if you refuse or lose the trust of the master, you are punished by being abandoned and shunned by everyone. For Songlian, all the tragedies happening here and the realization that she has no way out makes her go mad. Or perhaps the only way out of this state is madness. If they own your body, become a ghost. If they own your mind, lose it. The ending of the film is ambiguous to me. The intelligent and free-spirited Song Lian is without a question lost and broken at the end of the film, mindlessly walking in this state while everyone acknowledges her as the mistress who went mad. However, two things make me question if she indeed lost her mind. One is that she already faked her pregnancy, which means she is willing to act in order to get her way. And two, her conversation with Yanner before the pregnancy ended like this.
我有没有本事，慢慢走瞧吧。
We can't take this as it's presented to us. Right after this scene she fakes the pregnancy. But what if we look at it as something that characterizes Song Lian? She has been fighting relentlessly and intelligently against the mistresses. She even stated multiple times in the film that she is no fool. So I believe it's not impossible that after the killing, she chose this fate for herself as a last resort to surrender this eternal struggle. The film ends in the summer of the second year when the master chooses a young and beautiful fifth mistress to replace Song Lian. The director wants to impossible as a Song Lian before the pregnancy ended lacked mind. One is that she mindlessly walking it is madness. No everyone. For Song Lian, all the tragedies happening here and the realization that she has no way out makes her go mad. Or perhaps the only way out of this state is madness. If they own your body, become a ghost. If they own your mind, lose it. The ending of the film is ambiguous to me. The intelligent and free-spirited Song Lian is without a question lost and broken at the end of the film, mindlessly walking in this state while everyone acknowledges her as the mistress who went mad. However, two things make me question if she indeed lost her mind. One is that she already faked her pregnancy, which means she is willing to act in order to get her way. And two, her conversation with Yanner before the pregnancy ended like this.
我有没有本事，慢慢走瞧吧。
We can't take this as it's presented to us. Right after this scene she fakes the pregnancy. But what if we look at it as something that characterizes Song Lian? She has been fighting relentlessly and intelligently against the mistresses. She even stated multiple times in the film that she is no fool. So I believe it's not impossible that after the killing, she chose this fate for herself as a last resort to surrender this eternal struggle. The film ends in the summer of the second year when the master chooses a young and beautiful fifth mistress to replace Song Lian. The director once again shows us the importance of his selection of music. The same music can be heard at the ceremony of the new mistress as in the beginning when Song Lian arrives at the estate. It's just another Song Lian, a new part of the same cycle. The elegy under the high walls and deep courtyards is an elegy for the female group oppressed by the feudal ideology and also an elegy for the entire feudal era. No matter how you interpret the end, it is without question a tragedy and a total loss of humanity.
人就是鬼，鬼就是人。
The residents of the Chan estate are all stripped of their humanity, little by little, through feudal traditions and corrupted ethics. The film exposes 2,000 years of female oppression through symbols, but more importantly through music and sound. Zhang shows us what film as an art form is capable of, with layers of meaning for us to explore, for what is unseen must not be ignored.
So it shows you. Would I lie about that, Nia?
I don't know, would he Nia? Because it'd be a great opportunity to get him on 3 out of 6.
He has on multiple locations.
Oh!
I don't believe you.
Honestly, can't believe it. But you don't have any trust in me. Like, what's
Zero
that
trust.
about? Oh my god! Jesus Christ!
She's dead!
She should have trusted me.
This is Liar's Bar, and it needs a bit of explaining for the best viewing experience. It even took us a few games to get it right. There are 6 kings, 6 queens, 6 aces, and 2 jokers. When the round begins, the table is set to one of those. So let's say it's kings. Each player can choose to put 1 to 3 cards face down, and tell the rest of the table that they were kings. If the player to the right believes them, they can put 1 to 3 cards down, or they can call the bluff. If the player was lying, they must play Russian roulette, faced with a gun with 1 round and 5 blanks. If they were telling the truth though, the accuser must play Russian roulette. Each time you face the gun, you face less and less blanks. If you're lucky enough to get 5 blanks, well, the 6th time is kinda guaranteed. Now the jokers, they also count as the card you need, but remember, there's only 2 in the pack. And finally, if you place all your cards down without getting called out, you get to kick back and watch the drama for that round. Now if you still don't understand it, don't worry, it makes more sense as you watch. 6 kings, 6 queens, 6 aces, and 2 jokers. God, I hope you can count. Every card you put down has to be a king.
You know what?
Oh, Nia was an ace.
Son of a bitch. Got me. All right.
Good luck.
Here we go.
Oh, I get it. You don't know, but I have a winning.
You threw down 2.
What? You can throw 2?
That's just, all right, that is, yeah, okay.
1 ace.
Liar.
Oh.
What do you call me a liar?
What?
I'm telling the truth, guys.
But the table said there were 2 aces. Oh, nah, I need.
Sometimes I come across a movie that I know is special.
From start to end, it was about 15 months. But we didn't shoot the whole 15 months. It was on and off because we had a lot of technical problems.
The whole process is very painful because it's like loving 2 persons at the same time.
He says, this f***er says to me, is that all you can do, Chris?
And you don't know when will he shoot again. You have to, keep the mood.
拍緊呢個戲嘅時候咧，我哋一直喺度諗緊就話，幾時先係最尾嘅鏡頭咧？
Script writer and the director if they spend 6 months in an office writing a script, we spent 6 months of this shooting things to make the script a script.
成場好錫咧，即係對呢個演員嚟講做嘅真係幾辛苦下。然後大家仲要奄奄悶悶嘅，即係又唔係好多嘢講嘅，即係好多嘢都唔講得出嚟。
We have to find a way to stop this production. We need a deadline. So, okay, I said, okay, we can go to Cannes, and now we know we have to stop.
In 1997, Wong Kar-wai planned to make 2 films, Happy Together in Argentina and a more light-hearted film in China.
His concept initially was that the China film would be called Summer in Beijing and would be largely concerned with the relationship in terms of food.
其實北京之下只不過係一個 idea， 我諗冇 grow 到一個好 solid 嘅故仔。
Well, in fact, we started the project, and it has 3 stories in it. The actual story we see in The Mood for Love actually is only 30 minutes. It's only concentrated in the restaurants, in the noodle shops, the staircase, they buy noodles, the telling, and affairs.
He adapted the idea from a Japanese short story that is about 2 neighbors. It's very much about the 2 people going up and down the staircase and seeing each other in the staircase. And that gave him the idea to have us as neighbors, and all the rest was just improvised after that.
Improvised by him or improvised on set?
On set, by him.
In fact, the main reason for me to make that project is I like this story, so I forget about this another 2, so I didn't make it. I just expand the whole thing. The most difficult part is we started like a quick lunch, but it became a big feast at the end.
You start shooting without real script, and that you are writing during the shooting.
During shooting, we are just like a hungry man because we don't know if we can go back to this location or not. So we just shoot as much as we could.
Shooting started in February 1999, but before the film became what we know today, it had many different directions, with different characters and tones. Initially it was more comedic and erotic, with the 2 characters meeting in restaurants, and the hotel room 2046 where they cooked.
都會成日會 dream 可以同一個男人一齊煮嘢食，而唔係佢自己煮俾佢食。
sang Chinese operas, and even danced.
I think we arrived on set that day and he told us we were dancing.
Yes.
We didn't know beforehand.
唔知點解冇用啦，我覺得太好笑，所以咧就喺度夾舞咁樣兩個喺房。
That scene was fun actually. The only fun scene in the film.
即係拍過嗰啲哚，但好似你話齋，即係係好多笑嘢成場。
And also at the beginning, the idea was that we would play the husband and wife.
too. In the Mood for Love itself morphed into a much, much more serious piece. It went through quite lengthy development.
We started from 1962 until 1972. It is 10 years. At the end, I decided to stop in 1966 because that will be an epic, you know. There's too much. The scale is too big. And I don't think we are financially or physically is affordable. So we stopped in 1966. Well, actually, we looked for a place to end the film. And our production manager said, okay, why don't you shoot it in Englewood?
Well, I did shoot a scene with Tony there that we haven't seen each other for a few years and we bumped into each other there. But the scene was cut out.
But that was a great scene.
It was a nice scene. And there was one great line that he asked me right at the end of the film.
你係咪有打個電話俾我？
And I said,
我唔記得啦。
and then the film ends. It was kind of very beautiful. But I don't know why he cut it out. I have to ask him.
During this editing process, then we have all these materials lined up to us, and then we select what actually is essential to the stories.
The rough cut of the film is like 3 hours, and there's only one love scene in it. There's not a lot.
You'd think it would be a nightmare for an independent producer, and it was a nightmare for the independent producer because Wong Kar-wai was his own producer, and he almost went bust.
In our productions, basically, because we produce our films, and basically, it's every day is like a war. We have to fight for what we want. We work with the money, which is very limited.
And eventually, you also started another film.
Of course.
We're trying to finish the production of this film in August last year, but obviously we are too slow, you know, and because we also have the economic crisis in Asia. So all the investors of this film, In the Mood for Love, has problems, so we have to stop the production and find another investors. And by the time we have already committed to make a film called 2046, so that means we have 2 films mixed together, the schedule.
It took 15 months, partly because it took such a long time to evolve the tone, the style, the look, the feeling, and the themes of the film, but also because he shot the film twice. He shot it first in Hong Kong with Chris Doyle on camera.
What I feel is that the role of a cinematographer is like a whore. I mean, I really believe, you know, you pay me, I give you a good time. You know.
Long time?
No, short time. With Wong Kar-wai, long time.
He decamped to Bangkok to start shooting 2046.
To find a set with 2 houses next door to each other with a staircase that he liked was very hard, and it had to look like it was from the 60s. And in Hong Kong, it's almost impossible to find a set like that.
Took one look at Bangkok's Chinatown and said, this looks more like Hong Kong in the 1960s than anything in Hong Kong. We should have shot on location here, and proceeded to do so. So he shot the film again. It was soon after that decision that Chris Doyle walked out, somehow unwilling to shoot the film again, and Mark Lee came in to take over.
There's something about this wall and the sense of loneliness. There's something about the way in which, you know, it is falling apart. But you can see there is a cragginess. There is a sense of loss there. And then, for some reason, as soon as I put the lights here, which were very simple lighting, the actors were throwing shadows on the wall, which gave it a slightly more, another level of intensity, or another level of loneliness, or another level of whatever you're going to call it. For some reason, I walked inside. I came in here, which is somebody's house. I mean, a lot of people's house, actually. And I just felt that giving one more level of detachment, one more level of remove made it even more lonely. So we shot most of that sequence. We shot through here as a tracking shot.
I think that in the process, there will be a lot of sparks, or there will be accidents, or there will be situations. You have to make certain adjustments.
It didn't happen because we thought it through. It happened because this space, with this light, with this particular possibility, gave us this moment.
All the exteriors are shot in Bangkok. The office are shot in Bangkok. The newspapers is shot in Bangkok because they have the old building.
At a certain point, we have to make 2 films back to each other's.
Chris has only finished 1/3 of the film, so Mark Lee, Li Pingbing, the cameraman of Ho Xiaoxian, and we once worked on the project of Fallen Angels because Chris is away as usual. It is a new experience to me because in the past, I can be a little bit lazy because I can rely on Chris, on the framing, on the lighting, because I don't have to pay too much attention on that because I know he knows what I want. And now because I'm working with Li Pingbing on this project, it is not a film that looks like my previous film.
I would defy anybody seeing the film to say who shot what, because it actually looks very much of a piece all the way through, and that's because the actual DOP was Wong Kar-wai.
So I have to control all the things, and I'm more involved in the framing, lighting, everything. And it is a creative process. I can get more control on it, and I think now the look of the film is more attached to the content.
For the first time in his career, this was a film where he knew exactly what he wanted. He knew exactly the framing, exactly the lighting, exactly the look of the film.
The biggest challenge is we always want to keep the audience as one of the neighbors. So the way we see these 2 persons is always behind something.
In the 1990s, he was spending his time looking at art films. Suddenly, this is a director who has a very different sense of what is possible in cinema and what his status might be in cinema. So suddenly we have a director who, unlike the Wong Kar-wai of the 1980s, is familiar with Robert Bresson, is familiar with Luchino Visconti.
The movement of these actors is limited to certain space, certain environments. So it is very challenging to do that. Because I think it's all about suspense, and we learned it from Bresson. You know, we can only see the close-up, we cannot see the whole things. There's so many imagination outside the frame.
Bresson is the one who teaches him how you can do certain things with a concentration on detail. And that's also a reason for doing away with the kind of rather free-form handheld camera work that Doyle had excelled in. Here he wanted monumental compositions where everything was determined and everything was carefully planned.
In the process of making these films, there's so many things come up, like when we're shooting on the street. The street reminds me of Italian films, reminds me of Antonioni. I feel we're shooting something like Antonioni, so it is like a homage to all these people.
My advice to film students is see as much film as you can. Bad films are good films. Good films can teach you something, and bad films can teach you something too.
The biggest challenge for Tony and Maggie is I tell them this film is not going to be verbal. You are not going to express yourself through dialogues. Everything is expressed through the body, through the people, how they walk, how they move.
Wong Kar-wai is, yes, he's totally in love with the charisma of his actors, feels that it's an essential ingredient in the film. He doesn't feel that he's a director, the kind of director who tells the actor what they have to do. He's not a very hands-on director in terms of how to give the performance.
I have no interest to like to create an idea and then to ask someone to fit in this. It is not my method.
即係呢啲嘢係辛苦，但係到收尾係已經嗰個辛苦係我自己個掙扎係。
Maggie 開頭嗰陣時，開頭做都會有好多問題啦，因為佢好耐冇同嘉偉合作，唔係好清楚佢工作嘅方式，所以佢係問題少女，好多問題，每日都想知道究竟係點。咁我就成日同佢講，我話你唔好知啦，知嚟都冇用啦。
We know it's a forbidden love. It's we know that it's about regrets as usual. What else? Wasn't much.
佢自己嗰套就係永遠都唔話俾你聽，嗰個古仔係咩咯？
First of all, I hate writing because that's the most lonely moment, right, in the creative process, because you are dealing with a piece of papers and you are all by yourself.
At first, I really found that why do you have to make films like that? Why can't you get it all prepared and then we start shooting instead of having 30, 40 people on set every day waiting for you to be inspired.
But I have to write, so I just may make it the last minute.
It took me a long time to really forgive him for being like that, you know, if you will.
For Maggie, she's my first leading lady.
咁如果你正式合作，咁就阿飛正傳啦。咁嗰就10年前啦。個分別最主要，我諗大家都長大咗咯。
She didn't came from any acting background, and she's started from a beauty pageant. She's not even the Miss Hong Kong. She's kind of a run-up, but.
I was born by accident somehow, and then I became. I was in a beauty pageant in Hong Kong somehow by accident again, and then somehow by accident again I was cast in the film, and from there it just went on and on and on.
Working with Maggie gave me the confidence how to direct an actress.
And I used to ask a lot of questions.
Every day?
Every day I said, what's going on? You know, what is my character? Can you tell me more? I just need to work on this. Give me some space. And I'll speak to Tony about that because there's no one else who can share that frustration with me. And he would just say, chill out, you know, relax. Just do as you're told and stop asking questions.
But I think for the actors, this is a quite frustrating process. It's not the easiest thing in the world to act in these circumstances, especially if it's going to drag on and on and on, and you're going to have to turn down other work in order to stick with it.
There's nothing I can do about it. That's his style. And to love him as a director or as a friend, you just have to accept that's the way he is.
She was used to doing several films a year and you know, getting a certain amount of income from these things. And here's Wong Kar-wai basically demanding her exclusive services for 15 months.
Because it took so long to make, we had time to really get into it, especially for myself, how I looked in the film, the hair, the makeup, the dresses. I had a hard time to deal with it at the beginning, but after like 9 months, you know, I got used to it and everything became very natural.
Actually, I don't have that kind of frustration because I've been working with Kar-wai for quite a long time and I get used to his way of making movies. So actually, it's quite easy for me.
Our Maggies and our Tonys and our Leslies, they don't give a shit. They are there for us. They're not actors, they're participants.
So in the end, I stopped asking questions and I found it actually quite easy to work that way when you just do it with your instincts on the set at that moment and just let it flow and not be prepared. From not liking how I looked in the film or having to wear the dresses because it restricted me so much, in the end it was that helped me to move the way a woman did in the 60s.
They always ask to do something like similar, but I always encourage to do something that's different. I said, don't worry, try, you never know, and I promise you I will be your safety net. If it doesn't work, it won't be in the film. And I always keep my promise.
但係依家係會覺得電影係一嚿嘢嚟嘅，電影係永遠嘅，你拍咗出嚟，你15個月痛苦係唔代表咩？因為50年後啲人可能仲睇緊嘅。我覺得因為呢啲嘢係擺得落棺材咯，錢買唔到咯。
I think In the Mood for Love is both some kind of peak, it's certainly a peak for him personally, and also a millstone, because I think Wong Kar-wai's work has always been fundamentally very personal for him.
In the Mood for Love is about my memory of my childhood. This is a Hong Kong which has been lost, so it is about an era. Sometimes it's not a film is not about the characters themselves. It's about the whole period. You know?
I come from this background, and as a kid, I heard about gossips, and I know our neighbors, and I want to recreate this part.
It recalls me the times of my childhood because I was born in the 60s. I can still remember when I was a kid, the neighbors were very close to each other and we know each other very well. We used to go to the neighbors who played there every day and we never closed our doors.
Those things have gone, by and large, and I think Wong Kar-wai is attracted to them because they've gone. I mean, he feels that something that he valued and loved and cherished and was an important part of his growing up is not there anymore.
Okay, well, the question is about the selection of music specifically for In the Mood for Love that's critical in all of your films.
My mom is responsible for that. She passed away before that film. My mom has very good taste about music, and Nat King Cole is her favorite. So in a way, I want to recapture that period. And somehow I discovered there's a Spanish version sung by Nat King Cole, so I use that in the film as a memory of my mom.
There's two things that Wong Kar-wai says. This one is, have you read this? And the second thing is, listen to this. I think that the street should look like this. So how does the street look like music? And I think that's the great, what's it called, synergy.
I was told that you play music often when you shoot. Yeah, I heard it's you did that also. Yes, yeah. I learned from you. Yeah.
Sometimes I will play the music to the actors or play the music to the cameramen to let them know the rhythm.
In the absence of concrete direction about the character and the way the role was going to develop, they had at least something to go on, which was the music that he played.
For example, in the movement of a camera, it's the rhythm of the, it's the It's not just A and B. It's always, it is music. I think all art aspires to music.
To make a film for me is the actual process of production is vacation to me, and I enjoy the process very much.
I don't think the film would have been the same if it wasn't us, because the characters in the end were inspired by us. So definitely I do feel, there's my blood and soul in the film.
I agree.
You're so lazy.
I have to thank Cannes, the festival, for many reasons. They become the time for me to stop shooting my film. And they keep saying that, well, the schedule is up, you have to send your print to Cannes, and this is the only reason that we have to stop at that point,
I still remember the day when we get to Cannes, because we are the last film shown in the festival. We just arrived at the day before the last days. Even myself, we haven't seen a finished film. So it's a terrible experience, but it's very exciting. But I don't want to try that again.
Quite a bit of fine-tuning took place after the first screenings of the film, partly because the enormous rush to finish the damn things for their premieres at Cannes. But then he feels free to recut, to rethink, to revise.
There's the script, and there's the working experience, and then there's the edit, and they are really separate pursuits.
Well, I think for directors, you spend like 2 years to make a film. So of course, you will wait until the last minutes and to make sure that this is the best you can do.
I was depressed for 2 or 3 weeks after the whole thing, because 1 week after the shoot, we were literally in Cannes doing the premiere. I wasn't out of the character yet, and before I knew it, I was answering questions, doing the premiere, and I have the feeling now I have no more obligations. I don't have to get up at 5 in the morning anymore for a 3-hour hairdo. It's like, I didn't think I would miss it, and I didn't miss it, but it made me depressed for a little while to think, now what am I going to do with my life,
And I think much of the difficulties that Wong Kar-wai had in shooting 2046 are to do with the fact that he had opened up so much in The Mood for Love. And in my view, all of these problems, the problems that he has had in his latter day work, spring from the fact that he kind of peaked in The Mood for Love.
I think overall in Asia, the quality of the films has been improved a lot. But I think there's no filmmakers like the old filmmakers, like Ozu or Kurosawa, they can create a details which is extremely beautiful or extremely precise. Overall, we are better, but there's no exceptionally good.
Hello, and welcome to Wong Kar-wai's Chungking Express. Now, Wong Kar-wai, for my money, is one of the most exciting filmmakers that has come out since I've personally been making films. He was doing this epic swordsman film called Ashes of Time. The stars basically every star in all the Hong Kong lexicon. What happened is he's doing this big epic, it's taking forever, and then he starts editing it, and editing it's taking him forever, and it's just going on and on and on. And finally, he says, I can't see anything anymore. All I see is this big epic film I'm doing, and to kind of shake away the cobwebs, all right, he came up with an idea for Chungking Express.
Later on, I make a film, The Chungking Express, in Chungking Mansion, because that's the area that I grown up. The original idea of this film is, it is two-parted. One part is showing the day of Hong Kong, and one part is showing the night of Hong Kong. I want to make a film about where I live, and where I grew up, and what is very close to me. Chris, at that point, moved to Hong Kong. He stayed in Central.
Not you. Well, anyway, welcome anyway. This is where I live. In the film, this is basically where Tony Leung lives. And when he was not home, Fei Wong, who is like working in Midnight Express, she'd break in every day to see what this boy that she'd fallen in love with was really doing in his life. The space is what Wong Kar-wai creates. The space is my job to light. The space is the feng shui, which means the give and take between a space and a person. I think it's a dance between people and space. The words are just, they're the notes. The great pleasure of all the films we've made together is the actors are there for us, not for themselves.
Basically, we make this film just like the student films. We don't have time to set up like big setup. We just shoot just like, at that point, we call ourselves CNN. We just do it like CNN, just bring the camera and shoot it without permit, and we even get caught because we shot in the subway without any license.
同埋我記得我嗰陣時係拍我做一個差人，咁咧你嗰啲制服咧你要攞咗 permit 先可以喺個街嗰行，咁我哋嗰陣時冇攞 permit，所以一見到警察咧，我哋就要揾大褸遮住。
So every day is like planning a robbery.
Most of the films today is you have the script first, and then you cast someone to play that character.
Over the years, as a fellow filmmaker, I don't know whether I turned my admiration to him into jealousy, or turning jealousy into admiration.
In a way, the best way to work with an actor or actress is to customize the role for him, because you can borrow something from that person. Then the experience or the performance will be unique.
I want to do those cool things. How come I don't get to do those cool things? Going out shooting with big movie stars without a script.
The night before shooting, I'm still working on the script because I keep changing it. And I said, well, I wake up in the morning and I have 2 hours. I can do all this shot list. And then I wake up like half an hour before the shoot. So I go to, it's total panic.
No, I don't feel like shooting today. Let's just go home.
I think for most of the directors, the dream is to wake up in the morning and have a perfect script there. But it never happened to me.
Shooting for weeks, months, years, and then throw it away and start over again.
I have my logic, because like...
Because it's always better to work with a like clean canvas. But the thing is, you need to have like enough craftsmanship to be able to work with something blank.
Putting some of the most astonishing images and metaphors and beautiful romantic acting scenes together, and when it doesn't make sense, I just throw in some dreamy dialogue, dreamy monologue, and beautiful music, and it'll be brilliant.
I believe to be a director, it's very important you have at least the skill or the craft to be able to write the script, because at certain points you won't be restricted because you know how to make certain changes, because I don't think films can be made just like one by one according to the script. Otherwise we just make a novels.
I wish I could do that. I wish I could wear those sunglasses at night.
You have so many different options when you have so many different endings. The story can be told in different ways, because I have all this in my mind already. But I don't want to commit to a certain way to tell the story, because I want to see how the story should go. It's a very organic process, which I prefer. Maybe not the best way to make films, but this is the way that I know best.
The films we made at a certain period, the 80s, 90s, wouldn't be this way if it wasn't for the space in which they were made. And our space is a neon space, it's a light space, it's a space of energy that is electric, it's the way people move, it's the energy of Hong Kong, it's the excitement of the encounters on the street. So in my films, when I shoot a sky, it's never black. Why would it be black? There's always ambience. It might be fog, it might be clouds. To me, the light of a city is city light reflected, which means neon light reflected off the clouds, which give a color to the sky.
I think I would consider myself influenced by the East traditions more than the West. Maybe my films looks more westernized than other Chinese cinemas, Chinese filmmakers, but I think in the heart it is quite Eastern thinking.
The thing that you should understand about Wong Kar-wai's style and what makes it different from the majority of films coming out of Hong Kong is almost all the Hong Kong films are either like wild, crazy comedies, wild, crazy fantasy films that you know have a very Sam Raimi kind of style, and then like the what's become the John Woo, Ringo Lam, action films. All right, well, Wong Kar-wai has all that same energy that this Hong Kong tends to bring to its cinema. But he's also taking a cue from the French New Wave films of the late 50s, early 60s. In particular, Godard is his man. The film, his style, his kind of sense of fun is what he brings to the film. I gotta tell you, it's just very different in looking at Asian cinema to see the mix of French New Wave inside of that.
I think he enchanted us with most romantic and beautiful mystic mood. And the 90s Hong Kong specific drifting, cut off, elusive sensation, I think he created a mental space for us.
Well, I think a lot of people think, well, the film is beautiful, your visual is beautiful, and you must pay a lot of attention on these things. But in fact, it's not true.
We actually see very monochrome because he's always wearing his sunglasses. I mean, things seem to kind of dilute, the colors a bit. Also, because I made some mistakes in the printing. We've made films that had a certain budget, and it was actually often stealing the neon light. It was often using the ambient light, which is very soft and non-directional, and has a certain quality and a certain beauty, especially if a woman walks through it, or if someone is silhouetted in neon light, is extremely beautiful.
Some of our style actually came from there. It's like a lot of handhelds, and we shoot with the step printing. When you are shooting with existing light and you don't have a lot of light sources, the only way you have to shoot it with a fast speed of negative, and then you have to turn your shutter speeds from 24 frames. Normally it's 24 frames per second. We just slow it down to 12 frames. That means it allows the exposure longer, and so we can deal with these situations. But later on, we use it organically, and it become our style.
He put 3 filters in front of the lenses, so it's always a problem in focus.
We may have made a mistake, but we stuck with it. And that you don't get every day. I don't think you get that in Hollywood. That's why we're not going.
It's not only an aesthetic decision. Sometimes it is a practical solutions to solve your problem. And one of the job of a director is you have to solve problems.
Hello, and welcome to Wong Kar-wai's Chungking